Ladies and gentlemen, what is up and welcome to today's video tutorial and walkthrough of Rise of the Black Panther Uncollected Difficulty 100%. In today's video, we're going to go through every single quest and break it down and talk about some of the most challenging fights and how to deal with the various bosses. But I think it's fair to say, about the overall difficulty of this month's event quest, this is so much easier than last month, and last month was so much easier than MODOK. Like, in terms of kind of the monthly event scale so far, we've got Clown Fiesta, we've got a pretty easy time, and MODOK's, it was right up there. It was a full-fledged Clown Fiesta, MODOK and Ice Phoenix, really awful fights. And then last month it was kind of in the middle. Like, Void wasn't too bad, Sentry and Hyperion was super easy if you brought a Ronin or a Stark and Aunt Spider-Man, but this month is just generally much easier to deal with. I think a lot of people really struggled on Void last month, and at least in my opinion, as soon as you get used to Killmonger's animations, he is so easy to deal with, and there are so many different solutions to fighting Killmonger, and there are quite a few different ways that you can approach the fight, which we're going to talk about toward the end of this video. But overall, as well as that, some of the most difficult paths, usually every chapter has a linked path, and the enemies on that, especially in the final two, are just so much more easier. There's a really annoying Bane Nightcrawler last month, and yeah, especially in the last two chapters, man, the paths are so much easier. So yeah, if you are looking for that event that's going to motivate you to get that first collector kill so you can rinse this one for the insane rewards that Uncollected Difficulty offers, this is definitely the month to go for it, because this is honestly a much easier Uncollected Difficulty. But anyway, we're going to start off with talking about chapter 1 and what to expect in that. So first off, we have, I believe it is the Unstunnable Winter Soldier chapter. So there are 3 paths in this one. The link node up the middle, you'll see, has the brute force node, which, is essentially just play aggressive. If you don't land a hit within 6 seconds, you start to degenerate. But you have an Unawakened Gwenpool, Crossbones, Iron Patriot, Stark and Aunt Spider-Man on that path. So yeah, it's not really too much to deal with. And then the boss is Winter Soldier, so he is unstunnable. He has Unblockable Special 1. He is actually completely immune to debuff effects. But yeah, he's just really not much of an issue at all. If you have done Realm of Legends, which I assume you're probably quite used to fighting Winter Soldier at this point, if you're on Uncollected Difficulty, it's just keep on getting him to the Special 1, bait that, win the video game. Really easy kind of first boss fight to deal with there. But yeah, just kind of raw damage champions like Stark and Aunt Spider-Man and Star-Lord, very valuable in that fight. And next up we have, what is it, Power Gain Black Panther, and I believe this one has a couple of tricky nodes on one of the linked paths. So if we just go here, we can see the linked path here, which I believe is Masochism. So I think Masochism Hyperion is probably one of the most annoying fights in this month, but again, it's only in the second chapter, so his power index isn't too stacked in comparison to some of the final stuff. So yeah, Masochism is the one that every 7 seconds it will shrug off a debuff and then heal for 5% of the max health, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to power lock him down. But if you have a Voodoo or an Iceman, or maybe even a Luke Cage now, just chain on that special 1, it shouldn't be too bad to deal with at all. Hyperion in there. So yeah, that path isn't too much of an issue, and if you got to the collector, you should have a pretty easy time there. And you've got Power Gain Black Panther, and the thing to be really aware of here is the double power gain and also the unblockable finale. So attacks are unblockable as long as the health of Black Panther remains below 25%. So yeah, below 25%, your parries are not going to work. Everything is going to be unblockable. So at that point, you need to be kind of ready to bait a special 1, and then with a double power gain, it's just a case of bait the special 1. 5 hits, he's got a special 1 again. Just keep on doing that to get him down, or just have a really hard-hitting special ready for that 25% threshold, or a stun champion so that you can just, absolutely nuke him down when it comes to that period. But again, the first bosses, they're not too bad at all. Fairly easy Winter Soldier, fairly easy Black Panther. And then we move on to chapter 2, who you probably want a little bit of preparation for this chapter, because the final boss is an all or nothing special damage ramp up storm with Strike Back. But this map itself is fairly easy. The only I say it's not really a difficult path, because it's literally just one opponent. It's the Dr. Octopus here. So yeah, if you go down the right-hand side, you fight, what is it, Spider-Gwen, Captain Marvel, and then go to Dr. Octopus, and he has the buffet node, but this one is a regeneration of 10% maximum health. For this, either just a really strong damage champion, or make sure you pack a heal block champion if you're going to take this path. But again, it is only one fight, and then you port to the Gamora, and then the Storm. So yeah, it's really not too much hassle at all to deal with that. And then finally, the Storm has all or nothing, strike back, and also has the cornered node. So yeah, for Storm, you ideally just want to bring a power control champion like a Luke Cage, an Iceman, a Stark and Spider-Man will also allow her to trigger her special attacks and bypasses the all or nothing node. So there are quite a few solutions when it comes to dealing with Storm. Just keep in mind, you know, that she is going to be all or nothing. That's the biggest thing to keep in mind when building your team here. Just at least have a couple of solutions to potentially deal with that threat. And we're moving on to, what is it? Quest number 4, which is the Hulk Ragnarok, which has a bit of a stacked Mephisto just before him. So if we're looking at kind of the wider scale of this map, the linked path here is Burden of Might. So this is the one that just kind of messes around with your power a little bit, but yeah, really isn't too much of a problem. You've got an Archangel who isn't too bad to fight, Karnak pretty easy, Rogue a little bit of a pain, also Void might be a bit of a pain for some people to deal with, but this one, he doesn't have the increased power gain that the last month's final boss did. So to be honest, I didn't find this Void too bad at all, and I think I used just Gwenpool to rinse down that Void pretty easily, but to be honest, any high damage champion, a Blade or anybody else will work. Just so you need to make sure that when the debuff timer is running out, that you're getting to that 10th multiple of a combo hit, so 10, 20, 30, 40, etc. And that is going to allow you to dispel any debuffs. But again, this guy not being a final boss, the debuff damage isn't jacked up too much, so even if you do sit and eat a debuff for a while, it's not too bad. And finally, a Falcon, and then you've got the Mephisto mini-boss, so you need to be a little bit aware of, but even like a good Gwenpool or a high damage output character, if you're playing quite well, can get around this Mephisto if you don't have kind of a full counter for him. And then finally we have the Hulk Ragnarok as the final boss here. So has the same node as the OG Black Panther in the second quest, so below 25%, your parry is not going to work. You're just going to have to rely on baiting special attacks and intercepting. His special attacks are fairly easy to deal with. The special 1 is fairly similar to Juggernaut, and the special 2 is a little bit like 4 Ragnaroks in a way. It's a bit of a swell round, but you can kind of just dash back and outrange that special 2 and get in. Also, again, has double power gain, so in a way, this dude is kind of very similar to the Black Panther fight, and there isn't too much you need to look out for apart from if he has a little yellow smash icon, he's going to be unstoppable for 1 attack, but if he kind of gains that icon and then charges at you and he's not at 100 crowd hype, then that charge attack, if it doesn't land, is going to count as a fail, and that's going to get rid of his smash anyway. So yeah, if you see kind of the yellow icon popping up, then just kind of, yeah, wait for him to dash at you, just dash back, avoid that, and that will get rid of his unstoppable, and yeah, you can just attack him, but really, he's not a bad fight to deal with at all. And you can use bleed champions, they work absolutely fine, just any high damage output characters on that fight are pretty good for dealing with that boy. And next we move on to what is it, the final chapter where we have the last 2 quests. So we have Dark Phoenix. Now, if you've recently started playing the game, Dark Phoenix is a character that's been in the game for quite a while. She's mainly used for storytelling purposes, but in terms of her ability, she functions in exactly the same way as the classic Phoenix does. So yeah, I'll talk about Phoenix and then we'll go on to talk about the Bane path. So yeah, Phoenix, the very, very just basic and easy strategy, especially on this one that has double regeneration, is never let Phoenix go above her special 2. So yeah, just constantly like bait out the special 1 and you're going to have a very, very easy time fighting Phoenix. So yeah, you can use a power control champion if you want. But, you know, any high damage output champion is going to work quite nicely as well. Just, you know, the golden rule of fighting Phoenix is just never get to a special 2, because that causes a lot of hassle and a lot of, you know, power gain stuff occurring, and you're just constantly baiting special 1s and special 2s if you get to that threshold, and run the risk of potentially a full regeneration there if you do push her over while she has 4 stacks of Phoenix Force. But yeah, just don't push her past the special 1, essentially. And then we have a super easy Bane path to deal with. Only 4 fights on this Bane path. We got Blade, who's probably the most annoying on the Bleed path. Superior Iron Man, very easy to fight. 4 Jane Foster, super easy to fight. And then OG Black Panther, who is also yeah, really easy to deal with. So there aren't many problems at all on that Bane path in comparison to some of the Bane paths that we saw last month. And then we go into the final chapter, which is the Killmonger one, which has let's start off with the kind of linked path and talk about that one, which again really isn't much hassle at all. It's a cornered path. You've got Ultron start off. He's pretty much, you know, immune to almost every debuff effect. It's poison and bleed, which are the most common. But yeah, Ultron cornered, not really doing too much for that. Just use a raw damage champion to deal with him. And then you got Falcon, who has cornered. And the double power gain is actually something that can work in your favor for Falcon. Because if you just constantly try and push him to a special 2, that is much easier to bait out and deal with than the special 1. So yeah, that isn't too bad at all. Starknot Spider-Man, you just want to be careful here. Just constantly bait out his special 1. That's what I find is, generally speaking, the easiest tactic there. And Cosmic Champions are very good for fighting Starknot Spider-Man, for disabling his suit. And then finally you have a cornered Spider-Gwen, which, you know, is a similar kind of benefit to Falcon, that you want to constantly try and push her to a special 2. So on those fights, you probably want to use bleed champions just to make it a little bit more straightforward. And then Electra mini boss, fairly standard. Want to try and push her to the special 2. Doesn't have anything interesting or special as her note. And then finally we have Killmonger, who I think is probably, for a lot of people, the fight that most people are going to die on quite a bit, learning his animations and what he does. So the stuff that you need to know about Killmonger is that he gains 15% of his missing power every time a debuff is inflicted on him. So you need to be very careful using champions and attacks that will throw a lot of debuffs onto him. For example, Blade Special 2, because that might throw him over his Special 3. Also, in terms of his node, he has cornered. So yeah, while he has a debuff, he's going to gain double the power. So you need to watch out a little bit for champions that inflict too many debuffs in very quick succession. You also need to never attack into Killmonger's block after he has done his special 1. Because a special 1 is going to give him 2 charges of a mechanic called Counter Punch, and attacking into his block while he has these charges allows him to ignore that attack and instantly attack back into you. So if you attack into him while he has the Counter Punch charges, which he gains from his special 1, he will wreck you. He will absolutely destroy you, so keep that in mind. And also, every 8 seconds, he will alternate between Armor Up and a kind of Electro-style damage back. But you can remove this mechanic completely by applying an armor break, but the damage back, it isn't too bad. It's like a percentage of the damage that you're dealing to him. So if you're using like raw physical damage champions like Star-Lord or Starknot Spider-Man, you're probably going to feel it quite a bit more than if you were using, you know, champions that primarily rely on bleed. But yeah, there are many ways to deal with him. So the 3 popular tactics for dealing with Killmonger, you've got armor break champions, which completely remove the damage back and also the armor up phase, and also remove, the power gain from whenever he gets inflicted by a debuff. So champions like Medusa and Iron Fist, and yeah, just anybody with armor break that can apply on a fairly consistent basis. They work quite well if you're in the hands of a skilled player. You also have power control champions like Magic as well that can work really effectively, because it kind of negates the need for, you know, dealing with both the special 1 and special 2. But also Dr. Octopus, he could work quite nicely as well. But Magic seems to be a pretty decent option for a lot of people, because with power control champions, you know, you don't have the armor break as well, so Magic's Limbo is reversing a lot of the reverberation or strike back damage. So yeah, magic, it seems to be a bit of an MVP there, but you can also use bleed champions like Gwenpool, Blade, Archangel, if you're using some fairly just standard 5 combo rotations. They're working pretty nicely in the kind of game plan with bleed champions. I mainly use Gwenpool, is just to throw the 5 combo and just trying to keep pushing him to his special 2 and baiting that, and just keep on doing that again and again and again. So usually it's kind of in the standard rotation of your like bait out special 2, and the special 2 is so easy to avoid. You've just got to like swipe back as soon as you see him lunging at you and wait for him to slash back a little bit, and then kind of bring his swords back, and then you can go into him for a 5 combo and just rinse and repeat that, and it becomes very easy to deal with. But yeah, those are kind of 3 different ways to deal with Killmonger there. But overall, again, as I mentioned at the start of the video, this is a substantially easier Uncollected difficulty, at least in my opinion, in comparison to the 2 previous months that we've had so far. So yeah, if you're looking for a little bit of motivation to make that push and get this down, this is the month, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely gun for 100% Uncollected. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the tips and tricks video today. If you have any additional suggestions or strategies or additional pro tips, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Apart from that, thank you very much for watching, take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.